Hey guys, so I wanted to make a quick video here because we are just about ready to vote on our church constitution. We're really excited. Everybody's gone through the membership interviews. We are formalizing membership, and so we're presenting to you guys this constitution for you to look over, to read over carefully, and then we're going to be voting on it here in just a couple of weeks. And so I wanted to make a video just to point out a couple of things for you guys as you look over this constitution. First off, for those of us who have been together for several years now, you're going to find this document very familiar. Most of it is exactly the same as it's been since it was written a few years back. We have made some minor changes after having some meetings and some conversations. But for everybody, there's really three things that I want to point out just to help you understand what we're doing here with this document. So first off, I wanted to talk about the difference between a statement of faith, a covenant, and a constitution. A statement of faith, obviously, is what it says it is. It is a statement of the doctrines that we believe as a church, those things that unite us. And we actually already have the statement of faith. We formalized that basically as soon as we started meeting at Deer Run. A covenant is a statement of how we will live together. So if a statement of faith is a statement or a summary of what we believe, a covenant's a summary of how we'll live together. And we are voting on that covenant in this document right here. And so when you see the church covenant, this is the summary of how we as church members are agreeing together we will live this way. It's a document we'll be able to look towards, one, to guide us, to give us direction. It's a great teaching tool to use with other Christians, to use with your children. Great teaching tool for our own personal discipleship. And it is also the document that we'll look to and go, see, this is the summary of what we believe the Bible says about how we as Christians ought to live. And then the Constitution, sometimes it's called the Constitution and the bylaws. These are the principles that our church will be governed by. How we make decisions as a church, how we decide how to do various things, who are the officers of the church, what are their roles, how do you become a member of the church, how can you lose your membership in the church. So all those things are in the Constitution. So I just wanted that to be clear up front. And then the next thing I wanted to point out is actually in the Constitution, I just wanted to talk a few minutes here about how we vote. So in our Constitution, it makes the statement, those admitted to church membership do not constitute a legislative body, nor do they constitute members of the corporation, and they cannot vote, pass resolutions binding upon the corporation, nor shall they have any equity in the real property of the corporation or rights to vote on its disposal, except any vote specifically provided in these bylaws or as specifically provided by the Board of Elders. Said property of the corporation is dedicated to religious and charitable purposes, as outlined in the Articles of Incorporation. The Board of Elders shall seek congregational input, and a congregational vote of affirmation shall occur in the following instances. Okay, so all of that language means this. We are, as we have been for several years, an elder-governed church. That is, there's a board of elders that has the final decision-making authority in the church. We believe that this is biblically laid out in 1 Timothy, that these elders are those who have to manage the household of God. And so they are the ones who are ultimately responsible for the decisions that are made. However, there are certain times and there are key areas where the elders would need to work together with the congregation in making decisions. And so that's where we see that the elders shall seek congregational input and a congregational vote of affirmation in these 5 areas. Affirmation of the annual budget and significant changes in the budget exceeding 5% of the annual budget. Affirmation of elder candidates and deacon candidates for installation. Purchases or sale of land and real estate. Amendments to the Constitution and bylaws. Excommunication of a member. So in those 5 areas, the elders are required to bring a proposal to the church and to seek a vote of affirmation in a church meeting. And we have to give you a heads up that that vote is happening. Of course, it's on the members It's their responsibility to be there for the vote. And now, the other important thing to note here is if we present something for a vote and it gets voted down, then the next step that we would take is, if a vote is taken in the rejection, resulting in the rejection of one of these items, then we have to take an attendance of who's there. And if less than 50% of the church is at that meeting, then we have to communicate in writing to everybody the results of the vote. And then we have to, within 45 days, have a second vote on the same issue. Or we have to present an alternative. And so this is just to let you guys know, this is how decisions have been made in the past. This is how decisions will continue to be made. The final decision making rests on the elders, but what we really want to do is we want to make sure that there's a constant communication between the leaders of the church and the congregation. And so that's what this section on voting is all about. We need these votes so that we can be working together as a church to make decisions. As an aside, right now, technically, there is only one elder. That's me. But our Constitution speaks to that as well. And if there is a situation where there's only one elder, then that's when you need to have a leadership team whose existence is there to support that elder, to help in the decision-making process, and to work towards a plurality of elders, which is what we're doing. So that's the first thing, just how we vote. The second thing I wanted to point out is a minor change, but I think it's an important change to recognize and point out, and that is that with the elders, under our previous constitution, if you became an elder of the church, you were an elder for the rest of your life. That one vote, and then you remained an elder from that point on. We have changed that after some conversation to be, instead of you become an elder and you are an elder for life, it reads in Article 7.1, a lay elder of Grace Fellowship will serve a set term of 4 years and then be required to roll off the elder team for at least 1 year. And in order to return to the elder board, he must go through the nomination process. This is for a couple of reasons. One is for these lay elders and protection of their own lives and their own spiritual health. It is a big responsibility to shepherd the flock. And if you are already working in another job and you are a lay elder who is serving the church in the time that you're not working and you're not with your family, that's a heavy burden. And so if you ask somebody to do that for too long, you run the risk of them burning out, of it becoming difficult for them to continue. So this is really just a way to recognize shepherds can need a rest. And so we have that in the Constitution here. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, there's another change that may be new to some of you, and I'm really excited about this one, is on deacons and who deacons are. We had a lot of conversation about how should deacons be operating in the church. And what we came to is this proposal where deacons are appointed by the church for a specific task that keeps the church in good order. So instead of just saying, we're going to nominate this person as a deacon, and then that's their title, and they just sort of, there's not real clarity on what exactly they're doing, we recognize in Acts 6, which is an example of what a deacon might do, those men were chosen for the primary responsibility. The reason why they were called out was because there were these Greek widows that needed to be helped. They weren't called out and said, hey, they're deacons, and so now they serve always doing all sorts of various things in the church. No, it said, no, these are deacons who focus in on the Greek widows. So the goal is to find qualified individuals who can help in specific areas and then give them the freedom, unhindered by a committee, give them the freedom to focus on the area that they're in. So we might have, say, a deacon of hospitality, somebody who is set aside specifically because of their giftedness in hospitality and in serving the church in that way. A deacon of audio and sound might be another one. And so these deacons will be accountable to the elder team for their area of service. And, of course, if that specific task is no longer needed, or if another person ends up taking responsibility for that task, then that individual won't be considered a deacon of the church until another need arises that they can fill in. And so some examples of deacons or deaconesses would be a deacon of member care, like the men in Acts 6, who make sure that church members are being cared for. A deacon of ordinances, who makes sure that the Lord's Supper and any of the baptisms have all that they need. A deacon of missionary care, somebody who specifically focuses on making sure that the missionaries that we partner with, that we're keeping in good contact, and that we are doing everything we can to serve them and help them. So these are just some examples of how the deacon structure would work. And if you have any questions about those, you can definitely talk to me. I'd be happy to have any conversation there. And then maybe one last thing just to throw out, going back to voting. If you become a member of the church, in order to vote in any of our decisions that are made, you have to be at least 18 years of age. You can't be under any church discipline, and you have to be present at the time of the vote. Otherwise, he said, I would encourage you to read through all of this. I would encourage you that if you have any questions, reach out to me, reach out to one of the guys on the leadership team. Let us know. We'd be happy to help. If you notice anything that you want to bring to our attention in the Constitution, feel free. But as we said, please read over the whole thing, and we will discuss it, and then we will vote on it as our guiding document here in the near future. Thanks, guys. Love y'all. Bye.